Well, let's talk about that court ruling today and the bigger societal issue of violence against women, rather, and even the high rate of femicide in South Africa. Joining me now in studio, we have actor and the founder of an NGO that now serves as a platform for men who have abused women to speak out, Patrick Shai, and Professor Hlengiwe Mkhize, and of course representing the Progressive Women's Movement of South Africa. Thank you both for your time in studio tonight. Dr. Shai, perhaps let me begin with you. What did you make of today's sentence? And when you watch Sandile Mantsoe in court, given that this is the line of work you're involved in, what goes through your mind when you see, a young man who had a bright future ahead of him, but today is being sent to jail because of the decisions that he has made and taken a young life at that?
My sister, I was quite appalled. I think I cannot talk about the sentencing today.
Yeah.
In relation to the 32 years that Sandile got. I am of the view that even if he had been given 100 years, it would not bring Karabo back. So it does not serve, one cannot completely say it serves justice, because he's gotten away with someone else's life, someone else's daughter, someone else's future mother, someone else's cousin. So there is not enough. I can't find a suitable sentence for that. But I'm happy that it sets a precedent, a milestone in South Africa today in terms of how the courts are going to react and respond to gender-based violence cases, and also in general to femicide. That the country is saying, it is enough, we are not going to tolerate this. Men have given too many excuses on why they do these things. And society has also given so many excuses why men must continue to behave like this, normalizing the abnormal. Here's a young girl who had a world ahead of herself. She had all the opportunities in the world. She could have been the most, successful pageant. She could have done so much. And we came to know that she was so concerned about issues of women, having started more than 2 NGOs. So it's an asset that we lost. Whether Mantsoe spends 500 million years in prison, it will not bring our beautiful daughter back. It will not bring what needs to happen is, yes, in terms of this young boy who, with all the opportunities he's had, the problem for me, what I see, also how he came across. He was flaunting material power. He was flaunting wealth. Not once did it come across to me, I don't know, maybe I read it wrong, that he felt remorseful. No, it was not about, I am sorry, my actions recklessly so took the life of somebody I loved. It was, no, but I did this for her. I did this for her. You don't do such things to somebody that you love. And you stand there stoically and say, well, I'm being found guilty for doing something good to someone I love. You don't ban people that you love. You don't do the kind of horrific, gruesome acts of violence to somebody that you love. And
I think, there are a few themes that I want us to pick up on in a moment, just with regard to the overall approach that Sandile Mantsoe has had to this matter. But Prof. Mkhize, let me bring you in here. The position of the Progressive Women's Forum.
Yeah, it's really a huge burden. Women are burdened, I must say. We have, sometimes I track what people are saying on a WhatsApp group. I couldn't believe that in the early hours, while people were waiting for a verdict as to what will be the judgment, they started sending messages of somebody at the Durban University of Technology, a young man who had killed a girlfriend, and posted on Facebook the whole story of what is done. So the Progressive Women's Movement, they are communicating, they are talking. It came as a huge relief, because the issue of the criminal justice has been really a big burden on our side, in terms of saying, often we'll have stories of police having buggered up a case, sometimes not being convinced about the kind of sentencing that people who had committed these crimes were getting. I mean, initially it was like disbelief that the judiciary of South Africa taking seriously a case of femicide, but here we are today. I think it's a new beginning. It's an important conversation to have, because the issue of accountability is important. It can act as a deterrent. The ones who are gone, but the issue is, what message do we send to those people who are running around, threatening their loved ones, beating them up, pulling them in all sorts of directions? The easiest thing is to say it's a patriarchal society, but why such cruelty?
And I want us to explore some of those issues, in Shai, especially because this is not just something that you work with on the day-to-day, but you have personal experience of. The court had an extensive conversation today around whether or not Sandile Mantsoe was somebody who could be rehabilitated. So in terms of the broader look in society, when we look at the rate of gender-based violence, where does the turning point come in? And from your own personal experience, what is the kind of intervention that you think would be necessary in order to, I think, change our community's position on this, and even those individuals who are responsible for perpetuating that violence against women?
I think our biggest challenge, one as society and two as men, is that men have not taken up ownership of the challenge of the femicide issues of gender-based violence. On the other hand, society has created too many excuses for Majida, for men, to blame it on patriarchy, to blame it on now we're blaming it on apartheid and all of that. We cannot afford to do that. What I think needs to happen is for men to have conversations with themselves. What happened to me when I reached what I call my Damascus experience, I then felt, I was appalled by the person that I've come to discover, that he is capable of this extreme violence. And I'm glad that I had that conversation with myself. And I keep going on to say, when I have these conversations, dialogues with Majida, I say, for as long as you get angry when you are in conversation with a woman, you are giving yourself an opportunity, or you're planting a seed in yourself to commit femicide. Because you could clap somebody and that person dies. You could shake somebody and you send them into a state of, they get gripped by fear and they die. And half the time, you know, femicide cases, you'd find the guy did not mean to do that. But the level of anger, which is uncontrollable, leads up to that.
But is that not part of the excusing, that he didn't mean, there's no way that you kill somebody but you didn't mean for them to die? What does that even mean?
My point exactly is that as long as you get yourself into that situation where I get angry with my partner, I get angry to a point where you get mad, it cannot be a reason why you end up killing that person. The point I'm making, though, is that if you get to that point and you cannot manage your anger, you cannot manage your conflict that you have with your person, you are giving yourself an opportunity to commit a crime against another human being. That's all I'm saying. And I'm saying in my conversations, Moody Owens, Jita, don't allow yourself to get that mad. Trust me, I've been there. I could have committed an act of femicide, whether intended or unintentional. But the fact that I had these conversations with myself, I said, Patrick, you were born inherently good. You are such a wonderful actor. You make so many people happy. Why is it that you are not able to make the very people that you love so much, that you have professed and committed to protect and love and defend, you are putting them through trauma, through violence? You're exposing your children to this extreme levels of violence. I said, I want to give my boys and my girl an opportunity to experience what it is like to have a father who's loving and who's caring, who's capable of giving out love, who's capable of becoming a friend of the family, who they can trust and be open with.
Professor Mkhize, how do we extend this conversation to not just our communities, to our families? Because the people who are committing these crimes are those that we stay with in our houses. They are our boyfriends, they are our husbands, they are our fathers, and very much the reason why it remains undercover is because there is perhaps not a strong will on the part of families, on the part of communities, to root out gender-based violence and call it out for what it is and not excuse it.
Yeah, I think what you're saying is very, very important. Within the progressive women's movement, we often have dialogues. And one of the things that we are beginning to identify are these family secrets. Abusers, abusive men, they are not often people who, you know, are not consistent. You find that from a very young age, people who are around that person will pick up those tendencies, but it will be a family secret. A woman will be beaten, will still go to work, put on makeup, and sit in the office, and it's business as usual. It happens in the office, a woman will show their face. So some, you know, within the organization, really many women have been saying this tolerance of the violation of women's rights has somehow nurtured and cushioned perpetrators because we take too long to raise the alarm in terms of saying no. We often react when extreme things have happened, like death, or when a person is severely beaten. I mean, if you look at the cases that are on, you know, on the agenda right now, and most of them you could see that it's something which could have been prevented. Even the case of the students on campus, it's almost now a trend for young men to say, okay, if you don't agree with me on 1, 2, 3, I'm going to deal with you. And it's almost like there's nothing that women, they can fall back to ensure that these aggressive men, they don't end up committing the act.
And of course, there are also dangerous narratives that are coming up in our society. And I'll take us back to court today where Sandile Mantsoe speaking about how he said that young women should be women of substance. I don't know what a woman of substance is really. And who are not attracted by material things. And this narrative that women who are in abusive relationships have actually done something to ask for it, that they actually, you know, that they put themselves in that situation. What do you make of that, especially in the context of a country where we have, you know, the blesser syndrome? And when you look at those AIDS figures, and I know you're one of the ambassadors for those campaigns, you know very well that it's part of that blesser mentality that the HIV rate infection amongst young girls is increasing at a rate that it has never been seen before. But the fact that these narratives continue in society and are not challenged in the way that they need to.
I think we need to have a holistic view of the social dynamics and the challenges that we have. What all of this that you've said, it's so right, but what it speaks to, it's the fact that even with the women empowerment programs that we have they actually empowered the young girl in the street to be able to say no to material power? No, clearly, that void is still, it's still empty. They still find, they look at this, they want this. And boys out there, because they've amassed so much power and material, just as Sandile has, they think they have it all. They have the power over women, they have power over everything, they can act godlike. So we need to look at, I don't know if Prof will agree with me, that some of the empowerment programs that we have, women empowerment programs, are good. In public, they are very good. But on the ground, the young girl still cannot afford things like sanitary pads. So they depend on this provider who will be able to take over their lives. So we really need to look at it and say, what are the companies doing? What is government doing? Is it good enough for us to be collecting the sanitary pads and giving them? Why don't we create programs where young girls and women can get into the space of employment and be self-provident?
Okay, final words from you, Prof. Mkhize.
Yeah, but I think it's in a man's mind to think that if a woman likes nice things, then is making herself available for abuse. Because a woman has a right to be anything, like anybody, but nobody has a right to abuse or exploit the interest of a woman to a point that men are doing. And South African women are not unique in the world. Women, they will use their femininity, you know, to attract men to do this. But who has given these men a right to be abusive, to even assault them, to even decide to ban them?
It's not right.
And
they should have, the point is that women should have the right to be whoever they choose to be without that being a direct threat on their lives.
Their right to dignity.
Absolutely. Unfortunately,
it's their right to life.
We've run out of time, so I'm going to have to end off the discussion here, and that's off the back of the sentence that was handed down in court today. Actor Patrick Shai and Professor Hlengiwe Mkhize.